All right. Well, okay, so this is kind of like my first time going live on YouTube, so bear with me. I'm not even sure how long I have or how much time they're giving me for live videos, but I wanted to go ahead and share what I've learned on in church today. Today's Sunday, so this morning I went to church and we learned about, actually we had a christening, okay, at our church, and the verse that or the topic of the this the service or the sermon today was Hannah. It was about the birth of Samuel. And so without further ado, I'm actually just going to go straight into it. All right. And just, share that story. We kind of vaguely went through it, but I had to go back home to actually get the meat of it, to get the deep rooted message, or just getting more into it, just like anybody should do every time you go to church. And this is just a little introduction to it. And first of all, oh, I'm so sorry. My name is Antonella again. Thank you for my for coming into my channel. Um, but I'm just basically going to be going over things that I learned throughout my life in church and stuff like that. Okay, so anyways, going back to what I was saying. Um, we learn about the birth of Samuel and how it came about, and the story is really mainly about Hannah. Okay, so without further ado, let's just get started. The story is about well, Elkanah, which is the a man. He had two wives. Elkanah had a wife named Hannah, and he also had a wife named Penina. Okay, and Penina, the differences with these two wives that Elkanah had is that Penina had a couple of kids. She had two, three kids. Okay, and Hannah was barren. Barren meaning she was not able to conceive. She was unfertile. She was barren. Okay, she just was incapable to have a child at the time. And in that time, that also could have been seen as an affliction, because it's nothing that she could have helped. That she just didn't have children. Not that it's not that she didn't want to. I'm sure she had a desire to, but she just couldn't. Okay, and so it was very hard for her. I can just only imagine. It was a very hard time for her, and she was just hurting by it, just saddened and just heavy with this. And I think she was at a place where even her husband probably couldn't even understand. Now, one of the things that was really hard, even harder, is that when Elkanah would leave, Penina would take it upon herself to even cause it more disturbance to the situation, that she would actually torment her, or actually try to provoke her to the point where it would irritate her so bad. And this actually went on for years. She would just try, just tell her, why she's an unfit parent, or she's not, she's barren. And it's just one thing when you don't have something, or you're not capable of doing something, or not blessed with something, and another when somebody is just reminding you continuously on and on about it, and just taunting you, just trying to provoke you into something. You know what I mean? So she would just tell her, that God must not love her, and this is why she doesn't have any children and things like that. And I'm sure back in those days, and even today, um, women that are not barren or not capable, especially when you're married, to have children, especially when the woman wants to, but she's barren or incapable to have children, is in certain culture is looked upon, is shone upon, it looks bad. So I can only imagine the feeling that she felt of just not being able to feel that purpose that a woman always that wants, of being a mother, So, and this was in Samuel 1. If you go in the Bible, you could read the whole story for yourself. But just to kind of summarize it, in Samuel 1, if you go down to verse 8, Elkanah, it says, Elkanah, her husband, would say to her, Hannah, Why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? Okay? So this was said to Hannah by her husband Elkanah because when Penina was tormenting her and trying to provoke her, she actually did provoke her to the point where she was so irritated that she didn't want to eat anymore. She just was weeping and just stopped eating. And so her husband went to her and was like Hannah, like, why do you feel so down? Why are you hurting? Why are you not eating? Don't am I not worth more than those 10 sons you want? Like, stuff like that. So to her at that point, no, you're not. And maybe at that point you wasn't. That only made me see in that particular section that even like a man cannot fill God void. Like if you have a void, like it doesn't matter what he does, because I'm sure Elkanah loved Hannah. It seems like he loved her even more than Penina. Okay, in the Bible, and it seems like he would shower her even with gifts and give her more attention, and even throughout all of that, pouring out all his love to her and showing her, giving it all to her, she still was, she still had that voice, she still had that desire to be a mother. And Elkanah could not feel that void, at that time. And so and that just taught me right there that no matter what it is, no matter what men do, give you any material things, if you have that, there's a void in you. There's a void that only God can fill and no man can. And all you can do is go straight back to God. You know what I mean? So, just keep that in mind. And just to move on with the story, Hannah went on to the temple, okay? And she went on to the temple in Shiloh, which was the capital in that city. She went on to the temple, and there she laid out and cried out to God and just went into that deep place, okay? And right there, it just showed me that Hannah had a relationship with God. Like she had to have a specific or a personal relationship with God to even want to go to the temple and just lay it all out to God, and just pouring out her soul and just praying to God and just making that vow. Because right there she made a vow unto God. And like I said, you don't make a vow unto anyone, and you have to have a special kind of relationship to make a vow to somebody, to make a commitment to someone. So right there, that showed me that she must have had a relationship with God on and on, just praying to God for that one thing that she wanted, which was to be a mother. So she's there praying to God, asking God to bless her with this child, and she's just asking for a son, one son. She's asking for one son. Okay, she's telling God, if you give me that one son that I so desire, God, I will give that son right back to you. I will dedicate that son's life to you, Lord Jesus. So right there, it just shows me, you have to have a relationship with God. She had that serving heart. She was a servant. She had that personal relationship with God, and right there, she made that vow unto God. And as she is praying, she's crying out, she's giving all that she has to God. There, a priest saw her, which his name was Eli, and there's number one thing that he thought when he seen her, because at that point, I'm sure she was like into, crying out, sold out for God right at that point, and just crying out. And he probably just thought that, and it says right there, he thought that she was drunk, okay? And so he approached her, he goes up to her and tells her, hey, why are you drunk? I guess you need to go or whatever. And right there, she had to stop him and let him know, no, I am not drunk. Like, what I am actually doing, I am actually pouring out my heart to God right now. I'm pouring out my soul to God and praying to him. Because don't you know I am in trouble? You don't know what I'm going through. Like I, going through something right now. And I am actually going out right now to I'm giving it out to God right now. So at that point, it says in the Bible that Eli told her to go in peace. Okay? He told her to go in peace. And let's see here. It says, Eli answered, go in peace, and may the Lord of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. So right there is a confirmation, he's telling her to go in peace. And then that's that peace that when you do have that relationship with God, and you made your request known, and you made that vow unto God, and you have that confirmation from a priest telling you go in peace and may the Lord grant you what you have asked of him. I'm sure she had that peace, like that peace that surpasses all understanding, as it says in the Bible, okay? Like, you just know that okay? And one thing that we learn in church, like my pastor was saying, is that sometimes you just got to stop complaining about what you don't have and be grateful about what you do have, and learn to give God the glory, okay? Learn to give God the glory in that particular place that you're in, all right? And so she goes on, all right? She goes on, she lays with her husband. She lays out with her husband, and at that point, God remembered, okay? It says that God remembered her, and he opens a womb, and she was able to conceive. She conceived a son, and she named that son Samuel. And she did not forget her vow that she made unto God, and she goes ahead and gives that child to God. Now, right there is another lesson that I've learned, okay? That's another revelation, okay? Number one, you made that vow unto God. That's one thing, not to remember what you made. Remember that vow. It's so easy to forget when God gives you what you want. Okay, it's so easy when you make a promise or a commitment to God, that God, if you give me this, I will do this. And then God gives you what you need or what you wanted at that particular time, and then you just totally forget about what you said that you was gonna do. But it just shows you how faithful she was to God with continuing that vow. Okay, and so after that, God blessed her even more. As it said, God will bless you more abundantly. All right, like God gave her more children than she even asked for. She only had to ask for one child. And don't you know, God, if you have, God's plan is better than what you could ever imagine. So this story, I would say, is so dear to me, because right then and there, I was able to just find peace within my particular situation, what I'm currently going through now, and just allow me to see that, to be grateful in what I do have, and that God's plan is greater than what I can imagine, okay? And just to be faithful, just in this particular walk, just to be faithful. Another thing it taught me in this story is that to not judge, okay? To not judge, because like Eli kind of judged her while she was going through her moment in church, in the temple, and just pouring her heart out to God, and just praying, and just, we're so quick to judge. The first thing that he thought that she was is drunk, and we have to be careful in the house of the Lord, at church. Sometimes people go through, you don't know what they're going through, all right? You don't know what they're going through, and sometimes we just look at them and we think they're crazy and whatever, and you just got to be careful. We just don't know what they're going through, because you don't know when you might be going through something, and there's a time where only you and God, it's just only you and God, and you don't care what you don't even care about what other people see or what. And I think she was in that place where she didn't even care who was around, who was not around, and she was just laid out, crying out to God and pouring herself out to God. And so for me, I was learning, like, listen, if you're at church and you doing you, because like I said, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you've been through and what God has gotten you out of. So who am I to judge you? I don't care if you're doing a cartwheel, if you rolling down the floor, if you have to run around a couple of times, doing laps 2-3 times. Listen, I ain't gonna stop you. You do what you gotta do. As long as you don't shoot up the place, as long as you don't hurt nobody or whatever in the process, do you. You know what I mean? So that's just me. I will be in prayer for you. I will pray with you, and I'm just saying, just do you. But Hannah's story is a beautiful story about relationship with God, being a servant and being having that relationship, that personal relationship. Again, another thing I forgot to mention that it taught me also, as far as Penina, she's something else. You know, who can say they have somebody in their life that is kind of like Penina? Okay, that just taunting you. That just trying to provoke you to go out of character or just try to irritate you. And listen, it says in the Bible, this went on for years. This is not something that went on for like a couple of days. Sometimes we just can't stand this one person at our job or whatever that's just irritating you for like a couple of days. But this went on for years and years. Like this lady was bothering her, throwing it in her face. That's really what I really wanted to say. She's throwing it in her face like, hey, look at me. I have this and you don't have that. Like, imagine having a friend or a family member or somebody that you kind of, I don't want to say look up to, but this person clearly has something that you want, that you desire to have. And that may well be be a child. And this person is constantly telling you, hey, look at me. I have this because I'm doing this and you don't have it because, you're this and that, or you're not worthy, or God doesn't love you, kind of thing. And over and over. I mean, think about the stress, the emotional stress that it could put somebody in, depression. I mean, it says right in the Bible that she stopped eating. Like, she wouldn't even eat. It got to a point where she was so irritated that she wept and that she stopped eating. So I'm just saying, it's just show that you gotta just stop. Sometimes you just gotta go to God. You just gotta go to God and just not allow other people, I'm just saying, like, Penina just didn't know. Like, even though she had what Hannah wanted, one thing she didn't know that Hannah had is that personal relationship with God. And that's one thing I hold on dearly to, because when you have that personal relationship with God, I'm telling you, He is the source. He's the main source. He's the supplier. Like, He is all you need. If you have God, you have everything you need, okay? So all those things, those materialistic things that you're seeking out of someone else, they may have it, but if they don't have a personal relationship with God, what they have can fade away, okay? But just hold on to that relationship that you have with God, because whatever you do for God will last. And God will take care of you no matter what. So that's what I've learned, okay? I've learned so much in just this, and there's so much revelation in this particular story. And this is why I would encourage you, when you go to church, and this is something I'm planning to do more in the year 2019, is to, whenever I go to church, okay, and I always take notes, but how many of us can say you take notes and then when you get home, I mean, you don't really read your notes. Like, you just take notes because you're there and that's the right thing to do. You take notes as you go, as you're listening to the man of God speaking and preaching, and that's that. And then when you go home, you forget everything you just learned. And I wanted to get out of the habit. I want to get into the habit of getting deeper in my word, getting deeper into having a relationship with God and being full. Just being full with His goodness and His love and what He has for me. So thank you, YouTube, for watching this video. I hope you've learned something. I know I was rambling on at time, but again, it is my first time doing a live video. And I'm sure it's not going to be my last time, but it's my first time. I wanted to see how it worked. And I hope that you've learned, like I said, learned something and open your heart for God to come in, and that you would see that there are going to be better days for you, okay? So again, it was Antonella speaking. I hope you have a great Sunday. Have a great day. Bye-bye.